Hello everyone, my name's Joe Timmons. I'm a social worker and a research coordinator at the Institute on Community Integration, which is one of the university's best kept secrets, I think. There's about 75 of us working full-time on issues related to disabilities across the lifespan, and we work behind the scenes in a lot of situations. We collect data for the federal government and for the state, for school districts, for counties and so on. And then we also work in the community, and there's a movement across the state and across the country to support people with disabilities across all ages called person-centered thinking and person-centered planning. Now, when you look at what person-centered thinking and person-centered planning is, it's a really logical, sensible thing to do. But in the past, many, many people with disabilities have been supported in a system-centered system, which means if you were an individual with a disability, say in a school district, and you were the only person in the school district who was visually impaired, you would get services based on what staff they had available to work with you. It didn't matter what the individual was needing or what the individual wanted. It was based on what was available for the individual. John and Connie O'Brien are researchers, and back in the 80s, they started thinking about what are desired experiences for all people, and then what are desired experiences for people with disabilities. And as you would expect, people with disabilities are part of all people, so we all want these desired experiences: personal relationships, sharing places and activities, being able to make choices, being treated with respect, and having valued social roles. I'll come back to valued social roles in a minute. Suffice it to say, many people with disabilities, whether they were 5 years old or 50 years old, had limited opportunities for these 5 areas. As I mentioned, system-centered supports were not individualized or are not individualized. They're not customized. They meet the needs of the system better than they meet the needs of the people involved. And some examples of this are healthcare, athletic teams, and the armed forces. Now, athletic teams and armed forces, I can understand that they don't have to be individualized or customized because they're teams or there's things that want to get to a mission. Healthcare is another thing that often has been system-centered and not person-centered or not patient-centered. That's changing some. Person-centered supports look at 2 things primarily, or 3 things, I'm sorry. What is important to a person? And those are the things that make a person content, happy, engaged, energized, or relaxed. I use the acronym CHEER. If you ask a person or meet a person and you want to know what's important to them, what makes them happy, content, you have to ask them, you have to have a dialogue, you have to document those things. Sometimes people don't know what makes them content or happy, engaged, energized, relaxed, so it takes time to do this. Secondly, we need to know what's important for a person, what makes a person healthy and safe. So you have to have a dialogue there as well. And finally, you want to find out if a person has a valued social role. Now, I expect all of us in this room are employed. We all have valued social roles. We might be a parent, a neighbor, a voter, a consumer, a driver. All those things are valued social roles where society says, gee, that's a good thing. We're glad you exist. People that don't have valued social roles are people that wouldn't be missed if they disappeared. And I'll get back to that in just a minute. But we want people to have opportunities to share these things in all 3 areas. So when college students, or this applies to high school students or anybody as well, but we want to balance what's important to us and what's important for us. And students, anybody, if something's not important to us, but it's important for us, we won't do it. It's really valuable to understand that from the standpoint that I looked at all these college students right now. Many of them are thinking, it's not important for me to go to biology class this afternoon, or it's not important to me. It's not going to make me content, happy, relaxed, energized, engaged. And if it's not important to me, then it's not going to be important for me. Cognitive development is dynamic. Students are always changing, and we all know about the development of the hypothalamus and that other thing in the frontal cortex. College students, high school students are always changing, and we want to make sure we pay attention to that. Each decision impacts the next. How many decisions do we make per day? Balance that with what's important to us. I tell people I majored in beer in college. What was important to me was, where am I going to find money to buy a six-pack of beer that night or that weekend? And that college students have many possible valued social roles. For me, being on student council in college was one of my important valued roles. Being a good biology student was not one of my valued social roles. So students with disabilities often have valued opportunities or limited value social roles. Health and safety issues can be more complex. So someone with autism or someone with a learning disability may not understand the value of traveling with someone else late at night, kind of thing. Disabilities, the time to get things done is critical. It takes longer to do things if you have a disability. Disclosure to adults and peers, if you have a hidden disability, you often are reluctant to or will not disclose your disability to others. And these hidden disabilities present difficult decisions. Special education does not exist in college. So finally, the tools that I talked about is for caring adults, and this is not for just students with disabilities, to do four things. Hopefully they will look and meet with students and find out what's important to and important for an individual. Think about that. If you are a teacher, how often do you have opportunities to go down a short list or a long list of things that are important to the student you're working with? The other thing is to help students find valued social roles. If a student is doing well in your classroom situation, are there ways that you can understand what's going on in their life to make them more engaged or more energized? And finding a valued social role might be that thing. So asking them to help grade papers, asking them to do a presentation, asking them to go work with little kids in an elementary school. There's all kinds of things that you might find as valued social roles for these individuals. I ask people, what's the most important thing you can say, or the best thing you can say to a person, and most people will say, I love you. You can't say that to students, but you can say, I'm proud of you. So I suggest that you uncover things to like and admire about them and put them in positions where you can say to them, I'm proud of you, or you did a good job on this. And finally, know that good outcomes come in many domains. So if a person isn't a great student, what kinds of things can you provide to them that will allow them to be proud of themselves, to have some self-esteem and that kind of thing? And finally, the term universal design for learning, if you don't know what that is, I recommend that you look it up. It's unrelated to what I've been talking about, but it's something that's important when you're thinking about people that learn differently. Thank you.